Have you ever woken up at 3 a.m. with the overwhelming feeling that someone you lost is right there beside you? Maybe you've caught a familiar scent out of nowhere, or seen a butterfly land near you on a day when grief felt unbearable. What if I told you these aren't coincidences? What if your loved ones never truly left? What if the afterlife isn't some distant, unreachable place, but a thin veil away from where you're standing right now? The truth is, death doesn't end love. It doesn't silence the connection you built over a lifetime. Those who've crossed over aren't gone. They're trying to reach you through spirit signs, through visitation dreams, through the energy that flows between worlds. And there's one man who spent his entire life proving it. A man who glimpsed beyond the veil and brought back answers that still shock researchers today. If you've been searching for proof, for comfort, or just for a sign that they're still with you, what you're about to discover will change everything. Because the afterlife is real, and your loved ones are closer than you've ever imagined. If you want to keep receiving content that helps you connect with those you've lost and understand the mysteries beyond this life, please hit that subscribe button and ring the notification bell. Your support allows us to continue bringing these transformative messages to souls who need them most. Every subscription keeps this spirit guide alive. We've been taught to believe that death is an ending, a final goodbye, a door that closes forever. Society tells us that when someone's heart stops beating, they vanish into nothingness, leaving only memories behind. But what if everything we've been told about death is wrong? What if the afterlife isn't some fairy tale invented to comfort the grieving, but an actual dimension where consciousness continues, where love never dies, and where the spirit of those we cherish remains vibrantly alive? The truth that spiritual teachers and mystics have known for centuries is this: physical death is nothing more than a transition. It's like leaving one room and entering another. The body stops, yes, but the soul, the essence of who someone truly is, simply shifts to a different plane of existence. Think about it this way. When you turn off your television, does the broadcast disappear? No, it keeps transmitting on frequencies you can no longer see or hear with that device. Death works the same way. The energy that made your loved one who they were doesn't vanish. It transforms, it elevates, it moves beyond the limitations of flesh and bone into a realm of pure presence. When someone crosses over, they don't forget you. They don't stop caring. In fact, many spiritual traditions teach that love becomes even stronger after death because it's no longer weighed down by physical limitations, by pain, by the distractions of daily life. Your mother, your father, your spouse, your child, your best friend, whoever you lost, they're still aware of you. They can sense your grief, feel your tears, and they desperately want you to know they haven't abandoned you. The veil between your world and theirs is thinner than a whisper, and they're constantly trying to break through it to send you comfort, to let you know they're okay, to remind you that eternal love doesn't end just because a body stops breathing. But here's what makes this so frustrating for those on the other side. Most of us have been conditioned to dismiss the signs they send. We've been taught that spirit communication is impossible, that anything unexplainable must be coincidence or imagination. So when your loved one manages to flicker the lights in your home, to play a meaningful song on the radio, to send a cardinal to your window, or to wake you at 3 a.m. with a strong presence you can almost touch, what do? You rationalize it away. You tell yourself it means nothing. And they watch from the other side, heartbroken that their messages aren't getting through. The first step in reconnecting with those who've transitioned is understanding this fundamental truth. Death is an illusion. Not in the sense that it doesn't happen, bodies clearly do die, but in the sense that it doesn't mean what we think it means. It's not an ending. It's not a separation. It's simply a change in form, a shift in frequency. Your loved one's spirit is as real now as it was when they walked beside you. Their consciousness hasn't been extinguished. They haven't disappeared into some void. They've merely graduated to a higher classroom in the infinite school of existence. And from that elevated presence, they can see you, they can feel you, and they can reach across the thin veil to touch your life in ways both subtle and profound. Many people experience this truth accidentally, without even realizing what's happening. They'll be driving and suddenly smell their grandmother's perfume filling the car. They'll be crying over a recent loss and notice a butterfly circling them repeatedly. They'll wake up at exactly 3 a.m. night after night, feeling watched, feeling surrounded by loving energy they can't explain. These aren't random events. These are deliberate communications from the afterlife, carefully orchestrated spirit signs designed to penetrate your doubt and remind you that love truly is eternal. The afterlife isn't some far-off heaven in the clouds, unreachable and abstract. It's a parallel dimension that exists right alongside this one, separated only by a frequency difference. Imagine two radio stations broadcasting at the same time. They're both real, both active, but you can only hear one at a time depending on where you tune your dial. Your loved ones are broadcasting constantly from their new frequency, sending signs, sending comfort, sending love across the veil that separates the physical from the spiritual. And the more you learn to recognize their language, the more you tune yourself to their channel, the clearer their messages become. But there's something even more powerful that happens when spirits try to communicate with the living, something that most people never discover. Here's what nobody tells you about love. It's not a feeling that lives inside your chest. It's not confined to your body or dependent on your heartbeat. Love is energy, pure and unbreakable, and it exists independent of physical form. When scientists measure electromagnetic fields around the human heart, they're detecting something profound. Love radiates outward like invisible waves, touching everything and everyone in its path. And when someone dies, those waves don't suddenly stop. They can't, because energy never dies. It only changes form. Your loved one's love for you didn't end when their body stopped functioning. In fact, many spiritual teachers and near-death experiencers report the opposite. Love becomes exponentially more powerful after death. Why? Because in the physical world, we're limited by so many things, by distance, by time, by the demands of survival, by the walls we build to protect ourselves. But once someone crosses into the afterlife, those limitations dissolve. The spirit experiences love in its purest, most concentrated form, undiluted by fear, pain, or ego. And all that purified loving energy flows directly toward the people they cherished most in life. Think about the people you've lost. Think about the depth of connection you shared. Maybe it was a parent who sacrificed everything to give you opportunities they never had. Maybe it was a spouse who knew your soul better than anyone else in the world. Maybe it was a friend who showed up during your darkest moments without being asked. That bond you felt, that invisible thread connecting your hearts, wasn't created by proximity or routine. It was forged through eternal love, the kind that transcends biology, transcends time, transcends even death itself. When someone transitions to the afterlife, they carry every moment of love they ever experienced with them. Your grandmother doesn't forget the way you hugged her. Your father doesn't forget teaching you to ride a bike. Your best friend doesn't forget the late-night conversations that saved both your lives. All of that love, all of those memories, all of that energy you created together becomes part of their spirit forever. And from their new vantage point beyond the veil, they can see how much they meant to you, how deeply you're grieving, and how desperately they want to ease your pain. This is where the signs begin. This is why a butterfly lands on your shoulder the day after the funeral. This is why you hear your mother's favorite song on the radio when you're crying in your car. This is why you smell your husband's cologne in an empty house. These aren't coincidences. They're love letters from the afterlife. Your loved ones are using every tool available to them to communicate across the thin veil, to remind you that the connection you shared is still alive, still strong, still real. But here's the tragedy. Most people miss these messages because they've been taught to believe that spirit communication is impossible or imaginary. So when they experience a sudden scent that defies explanation, when they feel a strong presence in an empty room, when they notice repeating numbers like 1111 appearing everywhere they look, they dismiss it. They tell themselves it's wishful thinking. And on the other side, their loved one watches in heartbreak as their carefully orchestrated sign goes unrecognized. Love creates a bridge between worlds. The stronger the bond you shared in life, the easier it is for that person to reach you from the afterlife. This is why grief and spirit signs often appear together. Your intense emotion actually strengthens the connection. When you're crying, when you're remembering, when you're talking to them out loud even though they're not physically there. You're opening a channel. You're thinning the veil. You're creating the perfect conditions for them to send you a sign, to wrap you in their loving energy, to let you know they haven't abandoned you. Many cultures understand this instinctively. They create altars with photos and favorite foods, not because they think the deceased person needs to eat, but because the ritual of remembering, of honoring, of speaking their name, creates a presence that both the living and the dead can feel. The afterlife isn't a place where people forget their earthly connections. It's a place where those connections become clearer, purer, more essential than ever before. Your loved one's spirit carries the imprint of every kindness you showed them, every laugh you shared, every moment of connection that made life worth living. And they want you to know that love didn't die with their body. It's still here, still surrounding you, still protecting you like an invisible shield. When you feel inexplicably comforted during a moment of deep grief, that's not your imagination. That's their energy reaching through the veil to hold you. When you have a visitation dream so vivid you wake up certain it was real, that's because it was. When you experience synchronicities that seem too perfect to be random, that's because they're not random at all. The afterlife operates on the frequency of love. That's the universal language, the currency that matters, the only thing you carry with you when you cross over. And everyone who's ever loved you is using that love right now to stay connected to you, to guide you, to send you signs that they're still part of your life even if you can't see them with physical eyes. If this message is touching your heart, if you're feeling that connection to someone you've lost, take a moment right now to hit that like button and leave a comment below. Tell me, who are you hoping to hear from? What signs have you been noticing? Share your story with this community, because when we talk about these experiences openly, we help others recognize their own. And please, subscribe to this channel so we can continue exploring these sacred truths together. Now let me introduce you to a man who changed everything we thought we knew about death and the afterlife. His name was Edgar Cayce, and he's been called the sleeping prophet, the father of holistic medicine, and one of the most documented psychics in modern history. But here's what makes him different from every other spiritual teacher you've heard about. He didn't claim to be special, he didn't want fame, and he spent most of his life absolutely terrified of the gift he possessed. Edgar Cayce was an ordinary man from Kentucky, a photographer by trade, who discovered something extraordinary when he entered a self-induced trance state. While unconscious, he could access information that shouldn't have been accessible. Detailed medical diagnoses for people he'd never met, accurate descriptions of past lives, and most importantly, for our discussion today, comprehensive maps of what happens to the spirit after physical death. Over 43 years, from 1901 to 1944, Cayce gave more than 14,000 documented readings, and researchers are still studying them today because of their shocking accuracy. What makes Cayce's work so credible is that he didn't just make vague spiritual claims. He provided specific, verifiable information that was later confirmed by medical science and historical research. Doctors who were skeptical would test him by bringing patients he'd never seen, and he'd diagnose conditions that wouldn't be discovered by conventional medicine for decades. But when people asked him about the afterlife, about what happens to consciousness after the body dies, his answers became even more remarkable. According to Cayce's readings, the afterlife isn't a single place. It's a series of dimensional planes that the spirit passes through after leaving the physical body. He described these planes as corresponding to different planetary energies, not the actual planets themselves, but spiritual frequencies named after them. When someone dies, Cayce explained, the soul doesn't just float up to heaven or disappear into nothingness. Instead, it begins a journey through these levels of consciousness, each one offering different lessons and opportunities for growth. The first stage after death, which Cayce called the borderland, is where most spirit communication happens. This is the realm closest to physical reality, where the veil between worlds is thinnest. In this borderland, the newly deceased spirit is fully aware of the loved ones they left behind. They can see you, hear you, feel your grief, and desperately want to comfort you. This is why so many people report visitation dreams, sudden sense, and other signs in the days and weeks immediately following a death. The spirit is still very close, still learning to navigate their new reality, and still deeply connected to the people and places they loved. But here's where Cayce's readings get really interesting. He explained that the spirit doesn't immediately move away from Earth unless it chooses to. Some souls linger in the borderland for years because they're attached to unfinished business, because they want to watch over their families, or because they're trying to send messages that aren't being received. This isn't a punishment. It's a choice. The afterlife operates on free will just like physical life does, and many spirits choose to stay close to their loved ones, acting as spirit guides, sending signs, and offering loving energy from just beyond the veil. Cayce also revealed something that brings tremendous comfort to those experiencing grief. The soul retains all of its memories, all of its love, all of its personality after death. Your grandmother is still your grandmother. Your husband is still your husband. Death doesn't erase who someone is. It only removes the physical limitations they were operating under. In fact, Cayce described the afterlife as a place of expanded consciousness, where the spirit can see more clearly, understand more deeply, and love more completely than it ever could while trapped in a human body. One of the most powerful aspects of Cayce's work is his explanation of how souls communicate with the living. He described the spirit world as operating on a different frequency than the physical world, like radio waves that are always broadcasting but can only be heard when you tune to the right channel. When you're grieving intensely, when you're thinking about your loved one, when you're open and receptive, you naturally attune yourself to that frequency. That's when the signs come through most clearly. The flickering lights, the songs on the radio, the butterfly that appears at just the right moment, the 3 a.m. awakening when you feel their presence so strongly it takes your breath away. Cayce taught that the afterlife isn't about judgment or punishment. It's about continued growth and eternal love. The souls who've crossed over aren't sitting on clouds playing harps, and they're not locked away somewhere unreachable. They're active, aware, and constantly trying to maintain their connection with the people they cherished in life. The Akashic records, which Cayce frequently referenced, are like a cosmic library where every thought, every action, every moment of love is permanently recorded. Your loved one's spirit carries the complete memory of your relationship, and they're using that energy to reach back across the veil and remind you that death is just a transition, not an ending. What Cayce proved through thousands of documented readings is that consciousness survives death. The spirit is real. The afterlife is real. And the love you shared with someone doesn't vanish when their heart stops beating. It becomes stronger, purer, more powerful than ever before. Every sign you receive, every inexplicable moment of comfort, every dream that feels too vivid to be just a dream, these are your loved ones using the tools available to them in the afterlife to maintain the eternal bond you created together. Coming up, you'll discover the specific time when the veil is thinnest, when spirit communication becomes easiest, and why so many people wake up at exactly the same hour, feeling watched, feeling loved, feeling the undeniable presence of someone who's supposed to be gone. Have you ever jolted awake in the middle of the night, checked the clock and noticed it's exactly 3 a.m., and then it happens again the next night, and the night after that? You wake at the precise same hour, heart racing, feeling like someone just whispered your name, feeling watched, feeling an invisible presence so tangible you could swear someone's standing beside your bed. Most people dismiss this as insomnia or anxiety. But what if I told you there's a profound spiritual reason for these 3 a.m. awakenings? Between the hours of 2 and 4 in the morning, something extraordinary happens in the unseen world. The veil between the physical realm and the afterlife becomes incredibly thin. This is what spiritual practitioners call the witching hour, or the spirit hour, not because it's dangerous or evil, but because it's when communication between dimensions becomes easiest. During these quiet hours, when most of humanity is asleep and the electromagnetic noise of daily life has quieted, the energy required for spirit contact drops dramatically. Think about it from a practical standpoint. During the day, you're bombarded with distractions. phone notifications, conversations, traffic, work demands, a million thoughts competing for your attention. Your energy is scattered, your focus is divided, and you're operating at a frequency that makes spirit communication nearly impossible. But at 3 a.m., when your conscious mind is drowsy and your logical defenses are lowered, you become naturally receptive to the subtle signs and presence of those in the afterlife. This is exactly when your loved ones choose to visit. They've been trying to reach you all day, sending signs you might have missed. A familiar song on the radio, a butterfly crossing your path, the scent of their cologne floating through a room. But during waking hours, your rational mind explains these things away. At 3 a.m., however, your defenses are down. You're in that liminal space between sleeping and waking, between the conscious and subconscious, and the thin veil allows their loving energy to break through with unmistakable clarity. Many people report the same experience during these early morning hours. They wake suddenly, fully alert despite having been deeply asleep moments before. There's no logical reason for the awakening, no noise, no discomfort, no nightmare. They simply open their eyes at 3 a.m. and immediately sense they're not alone. Some feel warmth despite the room being cool. Others smell a sudden scent they associate with the deceased, tobacco smoke when no one smokes, roses when there are no flowers, or that distinctive perfume their mother always wore. Some hear footsteps, gentle breathing, or even their name spoken in a voice they recognize. This isn't imagination. This isn't your mind playing tricks. This is deliberate spirit communication, and your loved one has chosen this precise time because they know you're most likely to notice. They've learned, from their vantage point in the afterlife, that the 3 a.m. wake is when the dimensional barrier thins enough for their energy to penetrate your awareness. They're not trying to scare you, they're trying to comfort you, to let you know they're still here, still aware, still connected to you across the veil that separates life from death. The reason this time window is so powerful has to do with collective human consciousness. When billions of people are asleep, the overall energetic frequency of Earth shifts. It becomes quieter, more receptive, more aligned with the higher vibrations of the spirit realm. Simultaneously, your pineal gland, the part of your brain often called the third eye, is most active during these hours, producing chemicals that enhance spiritual perception and make you naturally more sensitive to non-physical presence. Your loved ones in the afterlife understand this instinctively. They know that if they can reach you during this sacred time window, their message is more likely to be received. So they use whatever energy they can gather to create a strong presence that pulls you from sleep. Sometimes they'll touch you, a hand on your shoulder, fingers running through your hair, the sensation of someone sitting on the edge of your bed. Other times they'll project emotions directly into your heart, a sudden wave of love so intense it brings tears to your eyes, or a feeling of peace that washes away the grief you've been carrying. Many spiritual traditions have recognized this phenomenon for centuries. In Christianity, it's called the Hour of Mercy, believed to be the time when Christ died and when the veil between heaven and earth is thinnest. In Eastern philosophies, it's considered the optimal time for meditation and spiritual practice because communication with spirit guides and ancestors flows most easily. Indigenous cultures worldwide have honored the pre-dawn hours as sacred, as a time when the spirit world walks closest to our own. If you've been experiencing these 3 a.m. awakenings, especially after losing someone you love, pay attention. Don't dismiss it as coincidence. Your loved one is working incredibly hard from the afterlife to breach the dimensional gap and remind you they haven't abandoned you. The next time you wake at this hour with that unmistakable feeling of being watched, don't reach immediately for your phone or try to force yourself back to sleep. Instead, lie still, breathe deeply, open your heart, and whisper their name. Say, "I know you're here. I feel you. Thank you for visiting me." You might be amazed at what happens next. Some people report seeing shadows moving in the darkness, not frightening, but comforting, shaped like the person they've lost. Others feel pressure changes in the room, temperature shifts, or the sense of invisible arms embracing them. Many experience a download of information, sudden knowing, memories flooding back, answers to questions they've been asking, guidance about decisions they're facing. This is the spirit using the thin veil of the 3 a.m. hour to communicate in ways that would be impossible during the noise and distraction of daylight. The afterlife operates on different laws than physical reality, but love creates bridges. When someone who cherished you crosses over, they don't forget your face or stop caring about your well-being. They watch from beyond the veil, they ache when you ache, and they use every tool available, including the sacred hours of 3 a.m., to maintain the eternal connection you forged together. These awakenings aren't disturbances. They're visitation dreams in waking form. Moments when your loved one's spirit slips through the dimensional crack and stands beside you in the darkness, radiating loving energy, whispering without words that death is just a transition, not an ending. What you're about to learn next will reveal how nature itself becomes a messenger for those in the afterlife, and why certain creatures appear at the exact moment you need a sign most. There's something most people don't realize about the natural world. It's not separate from the spirit realm. Animals, insects, and birds exist at frequencies that allow them to perceive things humans typically miss. They can sense energy shifts, detect the presence of spirits, and serve as perfect messengers for those in the afterlife trying to communicate with the living. When your loved one can't speak to you directly across the veil, they borrow the language of nature itself to send you signs you simply can't ignore. Have you ever noticed a butterfly appearing at the most emotionally charged moment? You're standing at a graveside, tears streaming down your face, drowning in grief, and suddenly this delicate creature lands directly on your hand. It doesn't fly away when you move. It sits there, wings opening and closing, as if it's trying to tell you something. Or maybe you're having the worst day since the funeral, questioning whether life has any meaning anymore, and a bright cardinal appears on the windowsill, staring directly at you, refusing to leave even when you approach the glass. These aren't random occurrences. In the afterlife, spirits quickly learn that direct communication is difficult because most humans have closed themselves off to subtle energy. So they use what's available, creatures that naturally exist between the physical and spiritual worlds, animals whose instincts make them sensitive to the thin veil and the presence of souls who've crossed over. Your loved one's spirit can influence these creatures, guide them to you, use them as vessels to deliver messages of comfort and love at precisely the moment you need reassurance most. The butterfly has been recognized across countless cultures as a symbol of transformation and resurrection. Its entire life cycle mirrors the journey of the soul, from earthbound caterpillar to chrysalis death to winged rebirth. When a butterfly appears repeatedly after someone's passing, especially unusual types or in unexpected places, it's often that person's spirit saying, "Look at me. I've transformed. I'm free now. I'm still here, just in a different form." Many people report seeing butterflies in winter, landing on them during indoor memorials, or encountering the exact species their loved one always admired. These are afterlife signs, deliberate and unmistakable for those willing to see them. The cardinal, particularly in North American spiritual tradition, carries similar significance. Its vibrant red color, the color of the heart, of love, of life force energy, makes it impossible to miss. And unlike many birds that flee from human presence, cardinals often approach closely, as if delivering a message they refuse to leave undelivered. There's a widespread belief that when a cardinal appears, a loved one from the afterlife is visiting. This isn't folklore. It's based on thousands of documented experiences of people encountering these birds at moments of profound grief or during significant anniversaries of death. But it's not just butterflies and cardinals. The afterlife uses whatever creatures are available and meaningful to the relationship. If your father loved eagles, don't be surprised when one circles overhead during his memorial service. If your grandmother fed hummingbirds every summer, pay attention when they hover near you in places they shouldn't be. If your spouse always rescued stray cats, notice when one appears on your doorstep the week after the funeral. These animals are being guided, influenced by the loving energy of someone who knows exactly what sign will penetrate your doubt and touch your heart. Even domestic animals demonstrate extraordinary sensitivity to spirit activity. Dogs bark at empty corners, tracking something invisible with their eyes. Cats stare intently at spaces above your head, their pupils dilating as if seeing something humans can't perceive. These pets aren't imagining things, they're detecting the energy signature of spirits visiting from the afterlife. Your deceased loved one might be standing right there, and while you can't see them, your pet absolutely can. They're witnessing the visit, the presence, the strong presence of a spirit who's crossed the veil to check on you. Birds in general carry special significance in spirit communication because they literally move between earth and sky, between the grounded physical world and the elevated spiritual realm. When specific birds appear at meaningful times, singing outside your window at dawn, tapping on glass, appearing in dreams, or showing up during conversations about the deceased, these are afterlife signs orchestrated with precision. Your loved one's spirit understands that you might dismiss a feeling or a thought as imagination, but you can't dismiss a physical creature behaving in unusual ways, demanding your attention at the exact moment you were thinking about them. Many people report experiences of animals appearing at 3 a.m., during that sacred hour when the veil is thinnest. They wake to find a moth circling their bedside lamp, or they hear an owl calling directly outside their bedroom window. These nocturnal creatures become messengers during the hours when spirit communication flows most easily, adding another layer of validation to the visit. The afterlife uses every available tool, time, place, creature, circumstance, to create moments so synchronistic they can't be explained away by coincidence. What makes animal signs particularly powerful is their timing and specificity. It's not just seeing a butterfly. It's seeing one on your loved one's birthday, or during the exact moment you're asking for a sign, or when you're visiting a place that held special meaning to them. It's not just any bird. It's their favorite species, or one that appears when you're speaking their name, or that follows you from location to location as if keeping watch. The spirit world operates through meaningful synchronicity, through signs designed specifically for you, embedded with personal significance that only you and your deceased loved one would recognize. Some spiritual traditions teach that advanced souls in the afterlife can briefly inhabit or influence animals to communicate more directly. This might explain those moments when a creature behaves completely out of character, a wild bird that lands on you and refuses to leave, a butterfly that follows you for blocks, a cardinal that returns day after day to the same spot where you sit and cry. These aren't just signs. They're visitations, moments when the veil thins enough for your loved one's spirit to reach across dimensions and touch your life through the body of another living being. Nature itself becomes a spirit guide, a translator between the afterlife and the physical world. Your loved one speaks through rustling leaves, through unexpected flowers blooming out of season, through the perfect scent of roses appearing when no flowers are near. But animals, with their mobility and their ability to approach you directly, serve as the most dynamic messengers in this invisible communication system. They deliver love, they deliver comfort, they deliver the undeniable proof that consciousness survives death, and that those we've lost are desperately trying to bridge the gap between worlds. What comes next reveals something even more mysterious: how scents from the past suddenly appear out of nowhere, carrying messages of love from the afterlife. Of all the spirit signs that cross the veil from the afterlife, perhaps none is more startling or immediate than the appearance of a familiar scent. You're sitting alone in your living room when suddenly the air fills with your grandmother's perfume, the exact floral fragrance she wore every single day. Or you're driving with the windows closed when the unmistakable smell of your father's pipe tobacco surrounds you. There's no logical source and no air freshener, no flowers, no explanation. Just a sudden scent so vivid and so specific that it stops you in your tracks and floods you with memories. These olfactory visitations are among the most common forms of spirit communication reported across cultures and throughout history. Why? Because scent bypasses the logical mind and connects directly to memory and emotion. The olfactory nerve is uniquely wired into the limbic system of your brain, the part responsible for emotion, memory, and instinct. When spirits want to announce their presence, when they want to break through your doubt instantly, they use scent because it triggers recognition at a level deeper than thought. Your loved one in the afterlife understands that you might dismiss a flickering light as electrical malfunction, or explain away a butterfly as coincidence. But when the distinctive perfume your mother wore, that particular rose-based scent you'd recognize anywhere, fills a room where no such product exists, there's no rational explanation you can hide behind. The experience is immediate, visceral, undeniable. It's a sign designed to pierce through skepticism and announce, "I'm here, I'm with you, I haven't forgotten you." The most profound examples happen during moments of deep grief or significant dates. A widow might smell her husband's cologne on their anniversary. A daughter might catch the scent of her father's aftershave while cleaning out his closet. Someone drowning in sadness might suddenly smell fresh-baked cookies, exactly like their grandmother used to make, and feel wrapped in comfort despite being completely alone. These aren't hallucinations. They're carefully orchestrated communications from the afterlife, messages of love sent through the one sensory channel that speaks directly to the heart. What makes these spirit signs even more remarkable is their specificity. It's never a generic flower smell or a vague, pleasant odor. It's always precise, personal, unmistakable. The exact brand of cigarettes someone smoked, the particular perfume they wore for decades, the specific food they always cooked, the distinctive scent of their laundry detergent or hair product. This specificity isn't accidental. Your loved one's spirit is deliberately choosing the most recognizable signature to prove their identity, to leave no doubt that this visit is real and intentional. In many documented cases, multiple people smell the same thing simultaneously. An entire family gathered for a memorial might suddenly notice the deceased person's cologne filling the room. Everyone looks at each other, asking, "Do you smell that?" And everyone confirms the same scent. This collective experience eliminates the possibility of individual imagination and provides powerful validation that the afterlife is actively communicating through sensory phenomena that transcend normal physical laws. The mechanics of how spirits create these scent experiences involve manipulation of energy at a molecular level. From their frequency in the afterlife, they can influence the vibrational patterns that our olfactory system interprets as smell. It requires significant effort and focused intention, which is why these manifestations typically happen during emotionally charged moments when both the spirit and the living person are highly attuned to each other across the thin veil. Some scents carry additional layers of meaning. Roses, for instance, are known as the flower of the Virgin Mary and are associated with divine love across spiritual traditions. When the scent of roses appears without any physical source, it often indicates not just a spirit visit but a message of eternal love and spiritual protection. Similarly, unexpected floral fragrances, lilies, jasmine, lavender, can signal that a spirit is trying to comfort you, to ease your grief with sensory beauty that transcends the physical world. Even unpleasant scents can serve as afterlife signs. If your grandfather always smoked cigars, that distinctive tobacco smell might announce his presence even though smoking isn't typically considered a pleasant odor. If your aunt always wore a particular heavy perfume that others found overwhelming, that's exactly the scent she'll use to identify herself from the afterlife because it's unmistakably hers. The spirit world uses what's most recognizable, not what's most conventionally appealing. These sudden scent experiences often coincide with other signs. They happen at 3 a.m., or while you're seeing repeating numbers, or during a visitation dream, or when a cardinal appears outside your window. The afterlife layers signs upon signs, creating a tapestry of communication so intricate and so personally meaningful that it becomes impossible to dismiss as mere chance. Your loved one is orchestrating multiple channels of contact simultaneously, using scent, sight, sound, synchronicity. Whatever tools will break through your resistance and deliver their message of continued love and presence. The next time you catch an impossible scent, a perfume that shouldn't be there, a sudden scent of flowers in an empty room, the smell of someone's cooking when the kitchen is cold, don't rationalize it away. Pause. Breathe it in. Whisper their name. Say, "Thank you for visiting me. I feel your love. I know you're here." Because that's exactly what's happening. The veil has thinned enough for them to reach across dimensions and touch your senses with a message they know you'll recognize. They're using the invisible language of scent to speak volumes about their continued existence, their ongoing love, and their determination to remain connected to you despite death's attempt to separate you. You're about to discover how spirits manipulate technology and electricity to send even more dramatic signs. Spirits in the afterlife are made of pure energy, and when they want to communicate with the living, they often manipulate the electrical energy around you. This is why so many people report strange technological phenomena after someone dies. Lights flickering without explanation, televisions turning on by themselves, radios suddenly playing meaningful songs, phones ringing with no caller, or electronics malfunctioning in ways that defy logical troubleshooting. Your deceased loved one understands that manipulating electricity is one of the clearest ways to announce their presence. When the lamp beside your bed flickers at the exact moment you're crying about them, when the radio switches on to play their favorite song during a moment of deep grief, when the lights in your home pulse during a conversation about them, these aren't electrical problems. These are spirit signs. Deliberate communications from someone who's learned to work with the energy frequencies of the physical world from their position beyond the veil. What makes these technological signs particularly powerful is their timing. The spirit doesn't randomly affect devices. They choose moments of maximum emotional significance. A widow reports that every time she looks at her late husband's photograph, the lights flicker. A father notices his daughter's music box playing on its own each night at 3 a.m. A woman discovers her deceased mother's favorite television program turns on unbidden during moments when she desperately needs comfort. This precision isn't accidental. It's the afterlife speaking directly, using the tools of modern life to deliver ancient messages of eternal love. The energy required for spirits to affect physical electronics is substantial, which is why these manifestations often happen in clusters, or during highly emotional moments when the thin veil allows easier penetration between dimensions. The strong presence of grief, love, or intense remembrance actually provides energy that spirits can harness to create these phenomena. You're not just passively receiving signs. You're actively participating in their creation through the emotional energy you're broadcasting. Following this, you'll see how dreams become doorways to actual encounters with those who've crossed over. There's a specific type of dream that everyone who's lost someone recognizes immediately. It's different from normal dreams in every possible way. You wake up and instead of the memory fading like regular dreams do, this one stays crystal clear, vivid, more real than waking life itself. You felt their touch, heard their voice with perfect clarity, smelled their scent, and experienced their presence so completely that calling it just a dream feels like an insult to what actually happened. What you experienced was a visitation dream, and it's one of the most common and profound forms of afterlife communication. Visitation dreams occur in what spiritual teachers call the astral plane or the thin veil between worlds. During sleep, your consciousness naturally lifts away from the dense physical frequency and becomes accessible to spirits who exist at higher vibrations. Your loved one doesn't have to fight through the barriers of your logical mind or the electromagnetic noise of waking reality. In the dream state, you meet them halfway, in a dimensional space where the spirit world and human consciousness overlap. These dreams have distinctive characteristics that separate them from ordinary dreaming. The colors are more saturated, more real than real life. Communication happens through telepathy or through hearing their actual voice with perfect clarity. You feel emotions with overwhelming intensity, love so powerful it brings you to tears even after waking. Time behaves strangely. What feels like hours of conversation happens in minutes of sleep. And most tellingly, the visit has a purpose. Your loved one delivers a message, offers comfort about your grief, or simply holds you to remind you that eternal love survives death. Many people report that during these visitation dreams, their deceased loved one appears healthy, young, radiant, free from the illness or injury that claimed their physical life. This is because you're seeing their spirit in its true form, unburdened by the limitations of a deteriorating body. They might tell you directly, "I'm okay now. I'm not in pain anymore. Don't grieve for me." Or they might simply radiate such joy and peace that the message becomes clear without words. The afterlife uses dreams because it's the easiest channel for extended, detailed communication. Unlike the brief signs of flickering lights or passing butterflies, visitation dreams allow for actual conversation, for healing exchanges, for the kind of connection that brings genuine peace to those left behind. Research shows that between 30 and 53% of people experience at least one visitation dream after losing someone close to them. and the majority describe these dreams as profoundly comforting and therapeutic in processing grief. Pay attention to dreams that occur at 3 a.m. or during the early morning hours when the veil is thinnest. Notice dreams where your loved one gives you specific information you didn't previously know, which later proves accurate. Recognize dreams where multiple deceased relatives appear together, as if coordinating from the afterlife to deliver an important message. These aren't random neural firings, they're carefully orchestrated meetings in the spirit realm. Proof that consciousness continues, that love endures, and that the veil separating life from death is far thinner than we've been taught to believe. Next, you'll discover how the universe itself speaks through numbers, delivering coded messages from those who've crossed over. Have you been seeing the same numbers everywhere you look? You glance at the clock and it's 11:11. You check your phone, and there's a notification at 4:44. Your grocery receipt totals $33.33. A license plate in front of you displays the exact birth date of your deceased loved one. At first you dismiss it as coincidence, but then it keeps happening. The same repeating numbers appearing so frequently that ignoring them becomes impossible. This is the afterlife speaking to you through the universal language of mathematics. Numbers carry vibrational frequencies that transcend physical reality, making them perfect vehicles for spirit communication. When your loved one wants to send a sign that you can't explain away, when they need to announce their presence in a way that penetrates your logical mind, they use numbers, particularly sequences like 1111, which has been called the awakening code by spiritual teachers worldwide. The appearance of 1111 is especially significant after someone dies. This sequence represents the thinning of the veil between dimensions, a moment when the spirit world and physical reality align perfectly. When you see 1111 repeatedly after a loss, it's your loved one telling you, "I'm here." Pay attention. The barrier between us is thinner right now than you realize. Many people report that 1111 appears during their deepest moments of grief, during conversations about the deceased, or immediately after asking for a sign, the timing too precise to be random chance. But spirit communication through numbers goes far beyond 1111. Your loved one might use their birth date, your anniversary, their age at death, or any number sequence that holds personal meaning to your relationship. A widow might consistently see 1025, October 25th, her wedding date. A daughter might notice 62 appearing everywhere, her mother's age when she passed. These aren't coincidences. These are coded messages from the afterlife, personalized signs that only you would recognize. Proof that your loved one's consciousness survives and they're actively working to maintain connection across the veil. The phenomenon of meaningful coincidences, what psychiatrist Carl Jung called synchronicity, intensifies dramatically after someone dies. You think about your father and immediately hear his favorite song on the radio. You're crying about your best friend, and a butterfly lands on you. You ask for a sign, and within minutes you encounter their name, their numbers, or a memory so specific it takes your breath away. These synchronicities aren't accidents. They're the afterlife coordinating physical reality to deliver comfort, to remind you that love creates bridges between worlds that death cannot destroy. Spirit guides and deceased loved ones understand that most people need tangible proof before they'll believe in afterlife communication. So they use numbers, undeniable, documentable, impossible to dismiss when they appear repeatedly with perfect timing. Research into after-death communication shows that number synchronicities are among the most commonly reported spirit signs, particularly sequences like 444, representing protection and divine presence, 555, signaling transformation, and 777, indicating you're on the right spiritual path. The universe itself seems to conspire to deliver these messages. You're thinking about whether your deceased spouse can hear your prayers, and you look up to see the time is 11:11. You're wondering if your child's spirit is at peace, and the address of the next building you pass is 444. You ask out loud, "Are you okay?" And the next car that drives by has license plate letters spelling out, "Yes." These aren't delusions. They're evidence that consciousness transcends physical death, that love operates as an energy force capable of manipulating reality itself, and that the thin veil separating life from afterlife is permeable to those who know how to look for signs. When repeating numbers appear during your grief journey, don't rationalize them away. Write them down. Notice the context. What were you thinking, feeling, or doing when the number appeared? The afterlife uses timing as part of the message. If you see 1111 immediately after crying about your loved one, that's not random. If 444 shows up when you're questioning whether they're okay, that's your answer. The spirit world speaks through the language of synchronicity, through meaningful patterns that bypass logic and speak directly to the soul. Your final lesson reveals how to actively strengthen your eternal bond with those who've crossed over. Now comes the most empowering truth of all. You're not powerless in this connection. The bond between you and your loved one doesn't have to fade with time. It can actually grow stronger, deeper, more conscious if you understand how to nurture it. The afterlife isn't a one-way street where only spirits reach out. You have the ability to strengthen the veil-crossing connection through simple, intentional practices that transform passive grief into active, ongoing relationship. The single most powerful thing you can do is talk to them out loud. Not in your head, not silently, but with your actual voice. Speak their name. Tell them about your day. Share your grief, your joy, your struggles, your victories. Ask them for guidance. Thank them for the signs they send. When you vocalize your thoughts and emotions, you create sound waves, vibrational energy that crosses the thin veil far more effectively than silent thought alone. Your loved one's spirit can hear you, can feel the loving energy behind your words, and your spoken communication makes it exponentially easier for them to respond with signs of their presence. Create a sacred space in your home dedicated to maintaining this connection. It doesn't have to be elaborate. A small table with their photograph, a candle, objects that remind you of them. Light the candle when you want to feel close to them, when you need their guidance, when you're overwhelmed by grief and need comfort. Fire has been recognized across every spiritual tradition as a bridge between worlds, and the simple act of lighting a candle sends a beacon of energy into the afterlife that announces, "I'm thinking of you. I'm open to your presence. Please come close." Pay attention and acknowledge the signs they send. When you see repeating numbers like 1111, say, "Thank you, I see you." When a butterfly lands near you, whisper, "I know that's you." When you smell their perfume or feel their presence at 3 a.m., acknowledge it. "I feel you here with me. Thank you for not leaving me alone." This acknowledgement creates a feedback loop of communication. Spirits in the afterlife invest enormous energy to send signs, and when those signs go unrecognized, it becomes harder for them to justify the effort. But when you notice and respond, you encourage more communication, stronger signs, deeper connection. Keep their memory alive through action, not just through grief. Live in ways that honor who they were. If your father valued education, pursue knowledge. If your mother loved helping others, volunteer. If your best friend was all about living fully, take that trip you've been postponing. When you embody the values and passions of your deceased loved one, you become a living extension of their spirit. You keep their essence active in the physical world and from the afterlife. They can feel the energy of their legacy continuing through you. This brings them profound joy and strengthens the eternal bond you share. Meditation and quiet reflection create the perfect conditions for spirit communication. In the stillness, when your mind quiets and your energy shifts to a receptive frequency, the veil naturally thins. You become like a radio properly tuned to receive transmissions from the afterlife. Many people report their clearest visitation dreams, their strongest sense of presence, and their most profound signs come during or immediately after meditation. You're literally adjusting your consciousness to match the frequency where spirit communication flows most easily. Release the heavy grief that can actually block connection. This might sound counterintuitive, but intense, bitter grief, the kind filled with anger, resentment, or complete despair, creates dense, low-frequency energy that makes it harder for spirits to reach you. Your loved one doesn't want you drowning in pain. They want you to heal, to find peace, to remember them with love instead of agony. When you begin transforming your grief into gratitude, thankfulness for the time you had, appreciation for the love you shared, recognition of how they shaped who you are, you raise your vibration and make the veil between you more permeable. Trust your intuition. When you suddenly think about your loved one and then immediately see their favorite cardinal or hear their song on the radio, that's not coincidence. That's orchestrated communication. Your thought about them was actually them touching your consciousness, preparing you to recognize the physical sign that was about to appear. The afterlife works through layered synchronicity, and your gut feelings, your sudden urges, your inexplicable knowing are all part of the communication system. Trust these impulses instead of dismissing them as imagination. Forgive yourself and forgive them for any unfinished business. Guilt is one of the heaviest barriers to spirit connection. If you're carrying regret about things left unsaid or things said in anger, speak your truth now. Apologize out loud. Say the words you wish you'd said before they died. Your loved one can hear you from the afterlife, and this act of verbal release creates healing for both of you across the veil. Similarly, if you need to forgive them for something, do it. Forgiveness doesn't mean what happened was okay. It means you're releasing the energy that binds you to pain and opening yourself to the pure love that survives death. Remember that the connection is eternal. Death cannot destroy love. It cannot erase the bond you built. Your loved one's spirit will be there when you need them most, sending butterflies in moments of despair, waking you at 3 a.m. to wrap you in invisible comfort, orchestrating signs and synchronicities that prove consciousness survives and love transcends every boundary. The afterlife isn't distant. It's right here, separated by the thinnest veil, and everyone who has ever loved you is watching, guiding, cheering for your happiness, and waiting for the day when the veil finally lifts completely, and you're reunited in the dimension where love is all that exists. If this message has opened your heart, if you recognize these signs in your own life, if you felt the presence of someone you love reaching across the veil to comfort you, I want you to do something powerful right now. Comment below, "Love never dies." Say it out loud to the universe. Declare it to your loved ones in the afterlife, and join thousands of others who understand that death is not an ending, but a transformation. Your comment becomes part of a collective affirmation of eternal love that ripples through both the physical and spirit worlds. And if this video has helped you understand that your loved ones are closer than you ever imagined, please subscribe to this channel and turn on notifications. We're building a community of people who refuse to believe that death is the end, who recognize the signs, who maintain their sacred connections, and who spread this truth to others drowning in grief. Your subscription doesn't just support this channel, it helps us reach more souls who desperately need to know that love truly is eternal. Thank you for being here. Thank you for staying open. And thank you to all the spirits watching from the afterlife who worked so hard to guide you to this exact message at this exact moment. They knew you needed to hear this. And now you know. They never left. They never will.